Trusting other people can be a really difficult thing. Trust in the therapeutic relationship can also be really difficult, but trusting your therapist is one of the most important things you can do if you want to actually make progress and feel better. So, thanks for joining us today. We're going to talk about trusting your therapist and what goes wrong if you don't. Any stories shared in this podcast have had names and details changed for the confidentiality of clients. Any resemblance to someone real is coincidental. Hello everybody, thank you for joining us for today's video. As you can see, we are without Josh, and if you're just listening, you can't see it, but he is not here. So you won't hear him today. We're going to continue talking about reasons therapy doesn't work. Today we are going to talk about when there's not enough trust between the client and the therapist. So thinking of trust in the therapeutic relationship, why is it so important? Like, why can't it just be, I go to a professional, they know what they're doing, and I'll just listen to what they say? Why is trust such an important factor?
It's actually a really big deal, and this is something that people come into therapy for. Lots of times people come in and say, I have trust issues, right? That's part of like my presentation. But the issue is if you don't trust your therapist and if there's not enough mutual trust between the two of you, you actually can't address the things that need to be addressed in therapy, right?
Yeah. So what kind of things do you think hurt trust in the therapeutic relationship?
So, I think specifically of a couple of clients that have taken me quite a while to build trust with. And one of the things that really makes it so that we build trust together is this idea of being able to predict each other a little bit. So, for example, like if the client comes into therapy and they start telling me about whatever happened over the weekend, and they're not sure how I'm going to respond. Like they're kind of worried I'm going to get mad or that I'll be disappointed in them or that I'm just going to give them advice right away. If they don't have any idea about how I'm going to respond, they're going to deliver the information in a very different way. Do you ever notice that?
Yeah, I think I like you framing it as predictability. I think that there are probably clients who have stuck with me for a long time, and probably also clients who I was not a good match for, almost entirely around this idea that they presented something and the way I responded was either really comfortable for them or they really appreciated that kind of response, or they didn't like how I responded and they were looking for something else. And I can see how doing that enough times over and over again builds trust, and then eventually lets that person maybe say things they've wanted to say, but they were kind of testing the water and seeing how you would respond to certain things.
Right. Well, I think too, trust is like the weirdest thing because as a society, we think of it as this thing you just like give somebody, right?
You got to trust me.
Right. Yeah, you should just trust me. Like just wake up in the morning and decide you're going to trust me, and that's how this goes. That isn't what trust is. Trust is predictability within a relationship. Knowing someone well enough that you can predict mostly how they're going to respond. Now, nobody's 100% predictable, so there's always going to be a little bit of wiggle room in there, and sometimes people are going to behave in ways that you can't exactly predict. But over time, you should get to know somebody well enough that you'll know how they're going to react, right? We see this a lot with people who come in with problems with addictions like pornography or substance use, cutting, lots of things like that.
Yeah.
People will come in and meet with us several times to get an idea about how we're going to respond to things before they decide to drop the bomb of like, hey, I've got this real issue that I haven't told anybody about.
Yeah, it does feel that way. I almost like kind of count on it that when someone comes in, what we talk about for the first handful of sessions is not what we are going to keep talking about.
Yeah. I mean, you and I were joking the other day that it's like, what, session 4? Session 4 is always when people drop the pornography bomb,
yes,
right?
Always.
Of like, I'm having like all of these struggles with pornography and I don't want to be doing this anymore.
Yeah. But they almost had to test out the water first and see how you're going to react to some other things they've got going on.
Right, which is actually smart, right? Yeah. Why would you tell somebody something if you don't have any clue about how they're going to respond to it? And if you don't trust your therapist, you're not going to tell them what you actually think and feel. And if you're not telling your therapist exactly what you think and feel, therapy's not going to work.
Yeah. And not only will you not tell them the real issue, but you're not going to do anything they say either, or like any of their suggestions on coping skills or whatever. If you don't trust that is either that they don't have your best interest or that they don't understand the issue, right? Whatever the problem is that's stopping the trust. If I don't trust you and you tell me to go home and practice a meditation, I'm just not going to do it.
Right. Right. I mean, you might as well just like find some random article online and try
Sure.
to do that, right? If you don't trust the person, if you don't trust the source, it's not really going to be that useful.
So what would you say is helpful for someone who maybe is starting therapy and wants to build trust with their therapist but struggles with that? How do you learn to trust a professional?
Yeah, such a good question. And I think there are lots of different things that you can do, but one of them is that you need to spend some time testing the waters, like we've been talking about, right? Give them a little bit of information and see how they react to it. And try not to take into account all of your past experiences with other people, right?
Sure.
That's what trust issues are. You bring all of that past stuff into the present and assume that things are going to go the same way because that's how they've gone in a past relationship.
Sure.
Make it about the present relationship. Give them a little bit of information that is a little bit vulnerable to you and see how they react to it. See if that helps you to feel safe or heard or not. And if it doesn't, don't tell the therapist that that was the right reaction, right? Tell them like, hey, that was really hard for me when you reacted that way. Try it a couple of times so that you start to understand how this therapist will react. A like quote unquote good therapist is going to be predictable and grounded when you exhibit different behaviors or when you drop different emotional bombs in therapy.
Sure.
Right? A quote unquote good therapist is going to be able to sit with that and have a pretty predictable reaction. So if your therapist is all over the place, I don't know if you can build trust with them.
Yeah, that's fair.
Is there anything else you would say? How could somebody work through this?
I like what you had to say. I think that that's probably applicable for building trust in any relationship in your life. I think sometimes we like to start with like fully trusting and then like let them destroy it and work their way down when we really need to start with like not trusting, right? Like and letting them show you that they are trustworthy. And so I guess my thought on it would be you've got to give it some time. I think it's hard to decide how predictable someone is after just a couple interactions because you don't have like enough of a sample size to say whether this person is predictable. But give it some time and see if you can't like identify the way the therapist is going to respond. Like for example, if I show up for my first few sessions and I share a couple things and you keep like really cool, really level head, then maybe I can share a little bit more. But it takes time, it takes practice, and it takes a little bit of vulnerability. It doesn't have to be a ton, but like baby steps of vulnerability, and you're going to figure out fairly quickly, I think, how predictable or trustworthy your therapist is.
Yeah, I think so too. And if you're not feeling trust with your therapist, back up and try to evaluate the problem. Why are you not feeling like you trust your therapist? Have you not been with them long enough? Or have you actually shared some with them and their responses have been really unpredictable to you? Or have you not really shared very much, right? Have you held back because you're really nervous about what that will look like and you're going to have to be a little bit braver, right? Is that happening? So if you're not feeling trust with your therapist and you think this might be in the way of you making progress, back up and evaluate what is going on. You may even have to have a conversation with your therapist about this, right? Where you say to them like, look, I think one of the things that's happening is that I don't totally trust you. And again, a therapist that's able to help you work through that is somebody that will be someone you can trust.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like that. If it's not working, point it out and see how they respond to that too, I guess.
Right. More than anything, I think that, in doing some of these videos, we just want to give people some more control over what's happening in the therapy room. And this is one of the things that can really get in the way. So it is an important thing to have your eye on and recognize if it is a problem. And if it is a problem, address it. Don't ignore it. It will just make you be in therapy forever.
Yeah, I think related, I think sometimes because of the nature of therapy and talking about so many personal things, sometimes clients feel the need to not disappoint their therapist or not confront them about things that bother them. But if you're going to build trust in the relationship, it is really important that you're honest about things your therapist does that bug you, or things that they say that are maybe you don't agree with or that concern you. As the therapist, I totally expect that. It's a normal part of therapy. But on the other end, I think sometimes people get worried about saying the wrong thing in therapy when there really isn't a wrong thing to say.
Right. I think that's probably totally true.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining us for this video. If you're looking to build trust with your therapist and enter into therapy and learn about therapy, check out more of our videos. We also have some video packages and some workbooks coming out very soon that can help you work through some of these things on your own time. So keep an eye out for that. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video.
Thanks.
If you enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. We've got other videos for you to check out and more exciting things coming soon, so thank you.